yesterday was obviously a big sausage party. For some of you guys, that's a fun thing, but for the rest of us, that's not fun. We don't have really any catalysts even today. The Tesla earnings are out, but we didn't really get much movement from the markets on them. So you can see here we've got a little bit of a gap down here. Now it is at a key level over here, so this will be an interesting spot to see. If they turn the algos on up or down around this area. Obviously, the trend on this is down, and you've been able to feel the selling on it. We'll see what's going on. This is probably going to be in play today. My guess is this is not going to be an easy one, but I think we got to keep it on the list. In terms of the general market, it's been very, very tough read of the last few days, mostly due to, a few days ago, we had just a gap and sit, which is the worst day, worst type of trading. Then the next day we had a gap up and a fade for like an hour, and then we just sat around in range. And then yesterday was the ultimate sausage party. It had all the fixings, the sauerkrauts, anything you can think of. And it was not fun, I should say. There are days in the market that are just glorious. And then there are days where it's not. You can lose more money in a range day than any day in the market. Like that is, a lot of times, even if you were counter trend trading like a market crash and trying to buy stocks, you would lose less money than you can in a damn range day. Like a range day, because like a range day, you're long, you're short, you're long, you're short, you're long, you're short, you're long, you're short, you're short, you're long, you're short, you're long, you're long, you're short. And you're buying high, selling low, shorting low, covering high, buying high, selling low, reversing, shorting low, covering high. So you're taking double losses half the time. Range day is very, very tough. Now, besides the range though, which doesn't, that's just like one thing. There were good PR plays out there yesterday. When you have a confusion on like, okay, what's happening in the general market and like stocks that are moving around with the specific market in itself, you can play a PR plays. We had some stocks on our list. I think we probably need to have a little bit better focus. Like this GNRC had, right, a 16 point range for most of the day. And it was clean, right? It's like just fading off at the MAs and VWAPs and stuff like that. So you have stuff like this, like they had, right, PRs out. I think CVNA, right, caught a nasty little downgrade yesterday. And so you had a breakdown on the daily. So when you're sitting there like kind of flummoxed and you're like sitting there watching the cues and you're like, fuck, am I long? Am I short? Am I long? Am I short? We're in the middle of earnings season. There's more than enough of these kind of things to keep you busy. If you're having trouble kind of reading up into these. So just something to be mindful of. Let's take a look at the earnings plays. There is a whole host of them that have been out in the pre-market, GBC code. There's a whole fucking, right? This is like, if you look here, right, you have really like everything under the sun. So you got, all these are right companies like right before the market opens. So you have all these companies like Nucor and the SCX, they're like UNP. So you have like a whole host of these that are actually, a little bit bigger companies that can have an impact in the market, right? Blackstone, American Airlines, so on and so forth. And so now you can see, right, you have all these stocks that are essentially, right, have some level of news out. And so like, if you're like sitting there wondering about, right, the damn market indexes and what's happening, always keep an eye on the earnings. And then, you can also, like, I always like to check for, analyst upgrades. Some markets, they don't matter. In this one, especially because the market's been getting nailed so much, a well-timed downgrade or upgrade has been actually a profitable endeavor. Getting like the first pullback or something along that end. you know, there's a little bit more to it. Like you usually need a clean chart and, you know, some other things, but like always keep an eye on like some of these too, especially if it's like something that's just like fresh. You know, if it's somebody that like reaffirms something or whatever, that usually doesn't matter. But like, you know, if it's something fresh, and then if you get a series of them. So like typically if you get, I would go with, you know, if you see like 2 or 3 or 4 come in like hot at once, then usually that's gonna get some juicy juice on this stuff too. And you can kind of I like to filter by, you know, so I can just see the upgrades at the top, but that helps a lot too. So just different things to kind of just be mindful of when you're looking and trying to figure out your days. You can there are things going on that you know, we can still always be playing. Let's take a look at the PRs now. Let's look at the gappers first of all. You can see this Indo had a PR. This is not the right market for this kind of name. Silo. This is a pump and dump. You can see that none of these really have any liquidity. So this is short natural gas. Natural gas is getting nailed again. I'm actually starting to think, you know, that this is turning into a little bit of a rubber band long. You know, so you can see here. Too bad we don't have that UGAS DGAS anymore, but it's starting to turn into maybe a rubber band long once this stretches out here. I've got kind of a mental note around 18. I got a mental note around 18 to start watching this thing. On a longer term basis, this is obviously a rollover pattern, which is good, right? You know, these are the things that can lower inflation. But this is probably, if this starts to speed up to the downside, I think, you know, we'll probably try to quick long at some point. But that's a, you know, a tricky little, that's a tricky bastard for most people. Let's see, IBM had earnings out. Old Blue, Big Blue. So you had earnings out. This is probably something, right? Like if you, it's a little bit of a slower kind of name. So not my exact cup of tea. I'm a coffee man, but that is like, you can see like the W over here. Like these are essentially rounding patterns. When you see, you know, sometimes people call them W patterns, rounding patterns, you know, they 1, 2, 3 patterns. There's like 1,000 different names for them in the trading books, but that is, you know, that is something that is rounded, but it's just a little too slow for us. You know, you could see this AT&T similar types of deal, right? Like, right when you get this kind of action, that's usually, you know, a bottoming pattern. D-Dog caught an upgrade today, but it wasn't really anything. This is like more of a adjustment of price targets versus like, hey, go buy this fucking thing. That probably a nothing burger. This one also just trades really, really thin right now. LIs, this is gap up 2%, but like you can see, this is just in a big downtrend. But I won't do that. Oh yeah, and you send me like what you guys are watching too. Let's take a look on the downside. What's going on? You can see this Ericsson. Damn, the Ericsson still makes phones, huh? Dude, I had this sick Ericsson in college. It was like, you know, it's like this, it's like this big, had all these fucking cool buttons on it, man. They made one hot phone in like 2003, and then it was all over. All stayed. So hey, this is a breakdown. If this has enough liquidity, this will probably give us enough range. It actually has you know, it actually has it for, actually it's a decent size ATR. It's like we're actually the same as fucking NVIDIA for the most part. I think we actually put this on the list. I would add that, you know, these things, you know, especially in this kind of market, like you can get follow through on these names, guys. You know, we took our eye off the ball on some of these yesterday, but there is movement in some of these. Let's add this to the list. You got a breakdown over here. It's going to be more of just a matter of liquidity. Let's add it. Net list. I don't think this is anything. These are all right. Just $2 stocks. Nokia. Man. Nokia reports higher profits, higher net sales. Smoked. Hey, so this Alcoa is, I think, something that we can add. It's It's usually not like a monster mover, but it will have enough liquidity and range for us to get loose on this. This is probably a prime time candidate for a quick pullback by short. I don't think Alcoa usually moves well on ORBs, but like a little pull and go, a show and go should be okay on this. Let's add that. AGFY, this is a pump and dump. MVST, Marina was asked about MVST. You could probably, they had enough volume on this. You could potentially try for a red to green on this. I've had no luck trading small caps, but you seem to do better at it than I do. You could roll with that on a potential red to green. You're almost right there. Welcome back, by the way, Wes. Tesla, we've got a breakdown set up over here. Really kind of, you're going to have to trade around this 206. So a couple levels to really kind of keep an eye on, right? First, you get your pre-market lows, which is at like 207. And then you've got really the bottom of this candle, which is, the low on this candle is 204, give or take. That's the spot, so to trade around these levels. This stock has not been trading easily. There have been some days where it's been easy, but the last week or so, it's been a little bit of a cock fest. Make sure you kind of keep an eye on all your levels on that. If you don't understand, the levels you're trading around, you can really get, you can get fugazied really easy. The fugazis come and the double Lutsies usually come around like specific inflection points where there's like an indecision and then you don't have a tight pattern necessarily. And then if you match that with the wrong time of day, now you've got yourself like a holy shit box of, potential fugazis. I think, what, this GNRC, you can't chase it down after like such a big move yesterday, but I think this is probably still in play. Like, it's going to have to squeeze up a little bit, but oftentimes the day two can get cleaner than is cleaner than the day one. So keep GNRC on the watch list. DHR, like this is another one that's probably going to have good range on it if the liquidity comes in. You had 5 million shares in volume yesterday. I think, frankly, I think we can actually keep that. Not a high priority due to lack of liquidity so far, but something maybe something we got to put on the watch list. Hey, this AMPX ran hot into the close. I believe they had a PR out there, but who knows with these fucking things. Yeah, you know what? These things have been so tricky. They often just run like, so it fucks around the whole day and then runs like the last like 30 minutes when nobody's paying attention. Run. Wolf Research downgrade Sun peer perform from outperform. This one's probably too extended. This has been already cut in half. Hey, this alley had a decent fade into the afternoon. This is potentially, if you don't mind doing a little bit of bank stock life, this is a big bear flag over here. You probably have a day two on that. We had done the list yesterday. I'm keeping that on for a day two. Good. Netflix. I think we keep Netflix on watch for a day two play also. Now, because it is right into the 200-day moving average, there's a strong possibility you get a little bit of a loosey-goosey inside day. So you get an inside day and it might be loosey-goosey just due to the location. If it was maybe over here, I would go with, a red to green on this. I think we keep it on the watch list, but be mindful that you could have an inside day. I think Oxy is, Oxy had a lot of random strength yesterday into the close, like who knows? But I think it's something, this one's pretty liquid, but it seems to work a lot better off dips. Mr. Schmidt, a good eye. Yeah, you're right in give or take. You're right in that spot. This is my only worry on this is like the breakouts don't really work in this in this market. This is not really Make sure you hit it on dips. That's the biggest thing on this one. You just can't chase this one. Let me see Wingstop here, buddy. This one's going to be stuck in range. It's a little bit illiquid to day trade, but you can definitely kind of keep it on watch for maybe a swing. But it's not a good market to swing, really. Hey, this TLT, this is right. This is the inverse to the markets right now. When these bonds have been getting fucked, right, the market itself has been, and you've been really seeing it like on the intraday charts. There's usually maybe a lag of like a minute or two sometimes, but like you'll start to see, when this thing starts to get shredded to the downside, it does put some considerable pressure on the markets. We had like a nice pop into QQQs around 10:30, and then this thing just started getting fucked. And then next thing you know, right, the market rolled over. So like whenever you've seen like these like decent sized pops in the Qs where you get all excited and you're like, oh, I'm going to try a flag pattern or this fucking pattern or whatever it might be. These yields have been really kind of taking a toll on the market. So something to keep an eye on here. You got your 10-year treasury. You can see this thing is basically breaking out and going parabolic. And at some point these things can change, but right now they're just bleeding off, and that's putting a significant headwinds in the market. Right now the market is shrugging off even good earnings and stuff. Like, frankly, if you look at like the earnings calendar, like most of these companies, like half of them, beat on their earnings and beat on this, but you don't see any of them in the gapper list, right? Like you don't see any of them in the gapper list. So, right, the market itself is shrugging off everything except these damn yields. So that'll be like just something to kind of keep mind of. You want to make sure that you trade, especially at the open, really small, because you're getting such a sausage party for the most part. Like there are plays, and there have been plays every day, but what it's often happening is it's a little bit of a guessing game at the open due to the different crosswinds in the market. And so you do need to trade a little bit smaller till the trend sets. And then when the trend sets, like, you can start to, right, really, really put the hammer. Add in some of these Chinese names for day two plays too. They had a really beautiful trend on them yesterday. You can see here, you had an ORB and a quick pullback buy, and then you had a series of bear flags coming down on this. Like this is also clean. When you're trading stocks and making your watch list, like you really want to be thinking about like, okay, what's been moving clean, like what's actually following patterns that like we use, right? So if you're using momentum-based strategies or trend patterns, then, like you see stuff like this. And this is why it's also important to be running kind of your scans in the midday and stuff like that, right? How we lost track of this fucking thing yesterday was beyond me. That's nice. We'll add this for a day two. It may need an inside day on it too, but I think you've got the breakdowns in these pretty much set up. This Baba was a bleeder too. It does move a little bit slower, but you can see by the end of the day, the range was there. Like, see this liquidation into the close? That's what you want to see. Like, you want to see these things really, get liquidated into the close. This is probably a prime time candidate for a green to red today. I prefer at the open, at the open, Baba's better than Baidu because Baba has less spread and more liquidity. But if you get a pop, right, once you get a pop in the market, or like once the market has, matured a little bit into the day, then Baidu trades better than Baba because it does have a spread. Its float is a lot lower. Its volume is less. You get less fugazis, but you just get more range on them. So then you'll have plays like this where they'll, really work out. So these are the things that we want to be looking for. You can see once this thing gets going, it gets going. But at the open, it just trades a little bit more. It just trades a little bit harder, right? So, it's easier if you just hit them into pops or into the EMAs. But what happens is when you get like a big spready stock, right, a big veiny spready stock, then at the open, it totally fucks you, because if you're doing like say 1,000 shares or something, right? And you know, and the spread on this is like always like 50, 60, 70 cents at the open, then you know, you're down like 500, 600 bucks like right off the bat. And usually whenever you have a spread like that and you're down so much money like right off the bat, right, you end up fucking, you know, you end up covering where you should be shorting. That's like the spreads always get you. That's what happened to me on snow like a couple of weeks ago when it had that like big nasty day. You know, the news came out and we were short this thing for like a hot second, and then I did like 1,000 shares, and the spread on it was like $1 something, and then it ended up just totally. I was like, fuck this, and I ended up covering it, and then ended up crashing like 20 points. Damn spread. Cool. So China stocks, right? China stocks. I think we still got day 2 short. Keep an eye on the TLT. All right. Netflix for potential long. We've got Netflix for potential long. We've got Tesla that we've got to watch today too. CDNA for a potential day 2. Good. And then we got all these earnings plays. Add in Ali, right, for day 2, UNP, GNRC, AA. You can see this DHR's got some heat. Good. Let's have some fun today. All right. Let's go do what we do. It's time to do the Lord's work in the devil's playground. All right. Peace, friends. I'll be in the chat room till noon, and then I got noon Central Time. Then I got to get out. I got to go somewhere. I can go see a man about a horse.